Hello YouTube, what's happening? It's Pete with BackDraft Bikes. Check it out. Check out what we got. A GS 1300. Oh yeah, let's go. I just want to talk about the GS 1300. I've got a demo ride scheduled. We're going to take this baby out. But the good folks here were allowing me to look at this in detail and compare it to its older brother. And I'm gonna show you a few things about both of these bikes that kind of make you go, huh? So just so you know, we put them side by each so you can get the comparison look. And they are quite different indeed, aren't they? So let's talk about the 1300 first. We'll go front to back, and then we'll kind of go back and forth between the 1250. So the 1250 has been in production for several years, 1200 even longer than that, and they keep just building on the same platform and making it better until now. The R1300 GS is completely redesigned. So let's talk about it. First off, BMW has introduced a few new features. First off, they're branding their own brakes now. So they say BMW, but if you look closer, Brembo. So they're still Brembos, don't worry. Still the same setup as before, 4 piston calipers on each side, outer laced wheel as well, just same as the old one. Going into BMW's own suspension, which is a rebranded ZF. This is where things start to change. So I want you to take a look at this front telelever suspension. Okay, see the control arm? Let's go over to the 1200. Similar, but not the same. There's differences. One of the differences is actually the shape of the telelever itself and the way, the angle of departure that it goes into. You can see this is more straight up and down versus the other one kind of goes in at an angle. Same suspension setup though. The telelever gives you another shock with a progressive rate spring. And of course, your steering stabilizer is up there as well. And BMW uses this opportunity to store all types of other things as well. Very similar on the 1250, you can see. A lot of similarities. Now, they haven't made the adventure model on these yet, so of course there's going to be some differences. This is just the R1300 GS. With the side-by-side comparison, this is the GS Adventure, and this is the Rally Edition, so it's a little taller than the other ones as well, but essentially the same components. Everything just kind of falls off from there. If you're looking at radiators, they have a totally different radiator setup on these, the 1300s. The 1200s are similar, but they look to be a little narrower. Also, if you look on the bottom, everything is tucked in, and I noticed on the GS, on this one, the coolant hoses are kind of exposed. And again, this may just be something that they'll hide on the adventure model when they release it later this year. Headlight is the biggest thing. If you look at the headlight here, the Cyclops. Some people love it, other people hate it. But when this is on, you've got marker lights or running lights, and then a single lens for high and low beam. Where the headlight used to be, now there's radar. So there's a collision avoidance system, and it also allows for adaptive cruise control. We'll just flip back over here, and you can see, of course, the squinting man, as some people call it. And this is the adaptive headlight that moves, so that's a nice feature as well. But the beak changes as well. This beak is more pronounced, right, on the 1200s. And you come over to the 1250, you can see it's smaller. Things also keep changing with the windscreen. You can see the windscreen is actually somewhat different in shape and a little shorter than the 1250. 1250's got these 2 stabilizers. There's 2 bolts in here. It's easy to change if you want to put on a touring or a sport or a smoke. And this one has like a wingtip design that's used for deflection. I'm 6'4", and actually the deflection on this is terrible for me. I get buffeting right in the face. BMW also employs these little gull wings on the side. With these little deals, to kind of keep the wind from hitting you. We go over to the 1300, totally different. It's 4 exterior bolts. There's no shroud hiding them. The windshield is smaller and rounded at the top. With these deflectors, the little gull wings, similar in nature, and these right here being the clear other pieces, so allows good visibility. But I'll tell you, riding this bike, the wind is way better, and no buffeting. And that's one thing about this screen that I like. Just moving over, though, the second part about this screen that I like is the fact that you can electronically adjust it as you ride. Just by comparison to the 1250, you all know we've got this knob thing here. And the screen goes up and down and then backwards, so it's a little different, as you can see. Now, looking at the bark busters, or the handguards here, BMW did something really smart on this. First off, they used 2 pieces of plastic. There's an inner piece and an outer piece, and this has your blinkers, a really nice LED light bar. Again, on this one, BMW has the stalks. These act as running lights, but this is just 1 piece of plastic and it's kind of flimsy. So I really like the way that BMW decided to integrate the running and blinker lights right onto the bark buster. And I actually think that it's safer that way because it's more out in traffic. Again, going back to the styling cues, the whole fairing is different on the side of this. And when you start looking at the engine, you start noticing that there is a big difference in the way that these are put together. So it's kind of hard to see here, but the gearbox on the new one is underneath versus the 1250, which is behind. What does that mean? It means you don't have to split the case like you did before to change the clutch. It's a huge labor savings if you're looking at maintenance. Let's go back. Now again, GS non-adventure version isn't out yet. We don't see any crash protectors. I'm sure there's aftermarket stuff in the works, but the GS usually has greater fuel capacity, and it's going to be really interesting to see how this works, because look at the narrowness of this tank as opposed to the 1250. This thing is humongous. And that was one of the original turnoffs I had for the GS, believe it or not, was the size of the tank. So I mean, and the GS and the GSA, the tanks are very similar in style. This is just super compact. And again, they wrap the seat material up onto the front of the gas tank. So if you have to stand up or you take a quick movement forward on the seat, you're not going to get totally messed up. The seats are also very comfortable, although I will say they are not as comfortable as the standard GS. But one thing that's back, heated seats for the rear and for the front. And the front does that through the computer screen. Again, controls are the same, but there is a little addition to a button that you can program to be able to have quick feature functions. You can pick 2, that's it. Everything else is very similar. I do like the refined clutch cylinder and brake cylinder, as opposed to the current GS model. Are a little different. Mirrors are the same, GPS prep is the same, the computer actually is the same as well, and then things change a lot in the mounts as well. So check this out. Instead of your 2-clamp deal that you normally have, BMW does this really interesting clamp on the top. It's got like this ginormous bearing type bolt thing that goes in the front, and then you've got your Torx here, and then you've got 4 bolts here. So that is new and different, and I'm not sure why they did that, but I know that on some of their other bikes, like the K1600, they've been using a clamp similar to this for quite some time. The other thing I really like about this too is the dashboard is quite refined, and it's hard to exactly see this on camera, but you can see that everything is kind of enclosed versus the old GS, which everything's just kind of hanging out. I mean, there's a headlight knob adjustment here, but it's not really enclosed. There's a little wiring harness that sticks out here. So I kind of like the fact that they tucked everything up and made it nice and neat. Looking at a few other things on this, the dashboard storage compartment, if you will, is bigger. So you can actually put your whole phone in here now. And the key fob, while we're there, has changed. It's sleeker, really nice in your pocket, and the key pops out of the front, and this allows you to access the seat. But I like the non-sharp edged key fob now that they're using. I've been told that this will also work with central locking as well when they get that all set up with the new panniers. And the panniers themselves are actually quite nice as well. Going into the back, just a couple more things. Drive shaft, similar, just the normal way that the other one is. Not a lot of changes there. The rear fender has a little bit more protection to keep the shock from getting blasted. The luggage is powered, so you can actually use this to power the luggage and also the central locking. You have the same tail light that you do on the XRs now, and a lot of the new 24 models have these. They're running lights, they're really bright, and they also incorporate the blinker. Now going over here to the exhaust, the muffler is a lot smaller now, so they move a big part of the resonator down underneath, as you can see. Shrouds cover up most of the side of the bike, whereas before, just quickly looking over, you can see how big the muffler is. The shrouds are much different. One thing that I really like that BMW incorporated on this model is a sight glass for the oil. So it takes the mysticism out of the old way, which is a ring. Is the oil full? We don't know. Very, very easy to see with a sight glass. Let's just power this up and you can see what it looks like. This is your exact same screen that all of the other bikes have. And give you a look at the running lights. And look at how awesome those blinkers look. Cool, huh? Want to take it for a ride? I say yes. Let's go. Well, I hope you've enjoyed the front to back to front, upwards and downwards review of the 1300. I've got another video on here with a test ride, but I wanted to do a more detailed walk around while I had it under light right next to the old 1250. Let me know what your thoughts are. I know this video kind of randles, but if you're trying to buy one of these machines, it's a big purchase. I hope this video helps you. As always, folks, ride safe.